Hey there, this is Pod and Deliver. Yes, we are here this evening with Cristian Markovich. Cristian is a former student of mine, but he's also a mayor. Well, he was mayor. I guess I should be calling you Honorable Mr. Markovich. And I do apologize. I'm really bad with titles.
Yeah.
Maybe you could straighten me out. But anyway, I should just go ahead and welcome Mr. Markovich.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. Now, before I go on, can you square that away with me? Because I don't want to be disrespectful to you or disrespectful to others. Is
You
it
can call me
on
Christian.
Christian?
You can call
Well,
me
I've known you
Christian.
for a while.
Yeah.
Geez, how
Yeah.
many years now? I think it's
Back
been.
in the day, it was more like, "Hey, you,
Yeah,
sit
get
down,
over here. Quit your
yeah,
tongue. No, I hope it
yeah,
wasn't that way
step
before.
outside."
So, I've done that before. I know that. I don't think I did it with you, but maybe I did.
No, no, no.
But
Yeah,
jeez,
I think the way it goes, once you have the honorable title, it sticks
yeah,
with you for the rest of your life.
nice,
But it's not like nobility where my son will get it, or
right?
anything like that. So I get to, fortunately I get to keep that title for the rest of my life. So
Oh,
yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you for your service though for the city. No, I'm serious because I worked in Cudahy, and I'm always blessed. And I've been to city council meetings there in Cudahy before your time, and
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of work. But can you tell us a little bit about your not only your public service, but what you're doing today, but maybe first about your experience in city politics?
Sure. So I was first appointed to city council shortly after the corruption scandal that happened in the city of Cudahy. So this was in 2013. There was a vacancy. We had a council member who had been serving for a really long time in our city, and he was actually one of the good guys. And he kind of rode the wave and was able to make it out on the other side and said, you know what, I want to retire. I want to spend more time with my grandkids. I want to spend more time with my wife. So I am going to retire in the middle of my term. So that created a vacancy. And the way that a lot of cities decide to do it is they could um, they could hold an election, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to print ballots and notify the public and send sample ballots and all of that good stuff to basically broadcast and set up election day and to have the county count the ballots and all that good stuff.
Right.
Or they could hold an appointment process, which costs next to nothing. So the city decided to have an appointment process. I applied along with like 10 others. 4 met the qualifications, including myself. And the way that they decided to do it was hold a town hall style debate where the 4 candidates or the four candidates would show up, debate each other, answer questions from the public, or they would, take a question out of the hat and you would answer it. And 3 of us showed up that day out of the 4. So we debated each other. It lasted for several hours.
Jeez.
And what happened was they held a council meeting a few weeks later where that was one of the only items on the agenda.
Mm.
And they basically said, we'll have a motion to to um, to fill the vacancy on city council. One person nominated me. There was a second, so it was a motion and a second, and they put it up for a vote. One person abstained. One person said no, and I got 2 yeses. And so, and so that's how I got on the city council.
Wow, with the 2
And
votes, I didn't know that.
2 votes. So yeah, because what happened was one of the council members, he, I believe, wanted to object, but he said abstain.
Really?
And it was in the middle of the roll call vote. So when you're in the middle of a roll call vote, you can't say you wanted a do-over. You have to complete the cycle and and see how the other members of council would vote.
Okay.
And
Parliamentary rules, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So that's how I got into city council. And I got appointed in 2013, and I got elected by the people in 2015.
Excellent. That must have felt great when you were elected by the people, huh?
It was
I,
really great, man.
yeah.
It really was, because they were able to see what I was able to accomplish for the first like year and a half.
Sure.
And I wanted to have that sort of vindication of like, I want, I felt, I always told them, like, I wasn't elected, I was appointed, and
Yeah.
I want to be able to earn your vote, earn your trust, and see if I could get back on that council.
Oh
And
wow.
once I got elected by the people, it felt really great. You get like a really nice certificate that said certification of election on this
Nice.
day and blah blah blah. So it was pretty neat.
That's awesome. Now, before you share about your time, what you're doing now in education, I'm just curious. While you're there working in the city, what I know you're sharing that you had some things you were able to accomplish in that first year and a half. And in regards to education, did you ever have any things that you could look back on and say, "Wow, I'm so proud we did that with the
Yes,
schools"? Or can you share
yes.
that? Because I think that, obviously, I'm a teacher, and I always look for that. I think I remember you doing some things as I recall you sharing with
Yeah,
me years ago.
yeah. Um, yeah, so during that time, I was actually an employee for LAUSD from about 2005 to about 2013, 2014. So I was an employee for the school district for a while, for almost 10 years. And one of the things that I was able to do during my time on council was sort of work with my school board member at the time. His name was Bennett Kaiser.
Mm.
And I lobbied Bennett Kaiser's office to get a computer lab for Ellen Ochoa Learning Center in the city of Cudahy. Because that was one thing that I really wanted to try to accomplish, because I was a technician on site,
Wow.
and the students were working off of laptops for the
Oh,
most
yeah.
part, or they were working off of these old desktops that were sitting in the back of the room. But there was no actual lab because the school, when it was built, couldn't afford to get that computer lab off the ground without support from the school, without support from the district. So I lobbied the school district really hard for months and months and months. And Bennett Kaiser's office finally decided to come down.
Mm.
And I worked with his great staff that came down, and we were able to get that done. And we had like this really great ribbon cutting ceremony and all that stuff. But I couldn't go because I had to work. I had a day job and I couldn't get time off. I couldn't get a day off that day.
Oh wow.
So I actually sent my wife. I asked my wife if she
Oh,
could
did
go.
you?
Yeah,
Oh
she was
wow.
able to go, and she was able to take pictures and all that good
So
stuff.
let me get this right. You, as somebody in the city council, went to the district to get this done. I mean,
Hmm.
because do you see a lot of your colleagues doing that? When I say that, I don't see council members doing that very often, where they're actually approaching the district, say, "Hey, let's get this done." Or maybe it does happen. I just don't read about it.
It happens, but the process takes forever to
Oh,
get anything done.
yeah.
Imagine like you're on a ship and you want to go port right. It
Mm,
just takes forever to turn that ship and go in the other direction, or to get anything done.
yeah.
So it took a couple of years to finally get that lab, and that opened up another can of worms. Okay, we have this computer lab now. Who's going to work in it? We're going to have to hire a teacher that has a tech credential
There you go.
to teach these computer classes and to man the room, because it can't just sit empty and only be used one period out of the day
Right.
or two periods out of the day, you know?
Yeah.
So it was interesting. But the thing that I found being on city council was you basically get out of it what you put into it. So if you see something that is wrong with the city or that you need help with, and let's
Mm,
say that technically falls under the county's jurisdiction,
mm,
you have to go to your county supervisor's office and say, hey, let's say, for example, because the city contracts with the sheriff's department
mm.
and they're LA County sheriffs. If we're having an issue with price or with the type of deputies that are patrolling our town,
Sure.
we would have to go to the county supervisor and say, hey, we want to schedule a meeting to talk to you about our police services. And then we'll try to come up with a solution, things like that.
Oh wow. And
Yeah.
and regarding that, was there a lot of challenges doing that? Because you were there, you said, what, about 4 or 5 years in the city council, I believe?
I got I got appointed in 2013, and I left office in 2018.
Okay, for about 5, 6 years. Okay. So that being said, you went to school in the city that you were a city councilman and
Yeah.
mayor. Is that kind of, how was that? Is that kind of, did you ever go on campus and just kind of like, hey, how's it going? See the teachers that once
I
taught you?
Yeah, I
And,
tried. I really did try to on some of the days that I had off,
uh-huh.
I would touch base with like Mr. Barber or Miss Parker,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and kind of put my ear to the ground and say, okay, what's going on that you need help with,
Oh, wow.
or even things that are happening like outside of the school, like what are your students saying? Like, do your students feel safe? Do your students feel comfortable walking around at night? Do some of your students need anything? Like, what could I do? What could I do to help? And there were certain days where I would go to, let's say, Miss Parker's leadership class,
Hmm.
and I would say, look, I'm your city council member. You technically can't vote because you're underage, but I still represent you.
Oh, wow.
Talk to me. What's going on in town? What do you guys know that I don't? Because I'm in my late 20s, married.
Yeah.
I don't have the same perspective that you guys have. I live on this side of town.
Right.
What's going on that side of town?
Yeah.
You know, and
Would you
I would just talk
suggest
to them
that
about
though? I mean,
things.
because that's an incredible thing. I wish I was there when you were a city councilman, because I had left the school by that time. But uh, regarding anybody who's entering city politics, especially, would you recommend that to visit the schools and to just extend the hand? Because that seems kind of smart, because these are future voters, aren't they? That
Technically,
seems like
they're
a
future voters, but
right.
they're also your constituents.
Yeah,
They're
you're
also
there
your
to
constituents.
you're there to help them out, because I think you also did things with like wasn't there like a reading program or a library event?
Yeah,
As I remember
I
that you were part of.
had. Yeah, I helped organize the book fair in town. And
That's
the
what it
book fair
was.
the book fair in town lasted a few years, and we had to like scale it back because of budget concerns.
Okay.
But the book fair I wanted it to be more of a cultural shift in the city,
Okay.
where you can get this event in town and have live music. You could have um, book readings from authors. You could sell art, and you could practice art. But we also had folks come down from one of the local community colleges and talk about DACA and what it takes to transfer from a community college to a 4-year institution.
Oh, wow. Now,
And
when you did that though, were you partnering with the local schools to have this event, or was it just put on by city council?
we worked with staff. So we told our Parks and Rec people, like, look, this is what we have an idea about.
Okay.
Let's partner with certain people and
Mm.
let's see what we could accomplish. I told them I definitely want live music because I want to be able to showcase some of our local talent.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to reach out to certain publishers or like booksellers like Scholastic, and have the Scholastic book fair, but at a much larger scale.
Sure.
And it was great. It was really great. And
Oh, that sounds fun.
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but I also wanted to be the type of council member that just doesn't like show up, take the picture, and then leave. Like we showed up early. My wife and I showed up early. We were setting up tables. We were breaking up water
Wow.
bottles. We were doing all the work. They had to like physically like push me off the field. Like, okay, like get out of here.
Let us just.
We'll do. Like, no, let me help you guys bust down these
Wow,
tables.
that's
Let's set up
wonderful.
some chairs. Because I'm still a member of staff. And I know
Sure.
what it's like to be a member of staff, because I used to work for like the Parks and Rec department in the city of Downey. So I know what it's like to like set up the event and break it down at the end of the day. If things don't go right, things
Right.
like that. And I think you gotta stay humble, man.
Yeah,
You
I
gotta stay
do.
humble. You can't be on your high horse, because it's a long fall.
Well, and I'm not just sharing this, but no, I know, but they're so lucky to have you, Christian. I mean, I'm so proud of you. I mean, I had the privilege of swearing you in. Really,
Yeah.
you asked me, and I'm like, one of the top highlights of my career. I know that you might not believe that, but it is one of the top highlights of my career. Just be able to be involved and still know you and still talk to you every so often to see what you're up to. I mean, working with that lab at Ochoa, the book fair. I mean, these are things that people just talk about. Okay, what you actually did. But I do want to go somewhere. How about after you left? Did you ever think, I wish I would have done this one thing? I just didn't get to do it.
All the time. All the time.
Oh, what
I'm
would
gonna
be one of
actually,
those things?
I'm actually going to tell you
Mhm.
why I kind of left office,
Sure, please.
because the city council gig came with a tremendous amount of stress, and it was just I was bringing the candle at both ends. I was working a job, trying to do the city council gig, but also it was also affecting my marriage. You know, like being married isn't a passive exercise.
Right.
You know, it takes work, and it still takes work. You know, we got to make sure that both people in the partnership are doing well.
Yeah.
And now that we have our son, you know, even more so.
Yeah.
So in 2018, there was an election to my term was up. So I was running for office, and one day I was on my lunch break at work, and I had my AirPod in my ear to talk to my wife on my break
Mm.
while I was having my food. And the next thing I know, I was, you know, sitting like at a park bench, you know, and the next thing
Mm.
I know, I'm being woken up by a student. You know, I had collapsed. I was
Whoa.
in the middle of a sentence, and I still had my AirPod in my ear, so I heard my wife like screaming, like Christian, you know, what's going
Oh,
on?
wow.
Like what
I did
happened?
not know this, Chris.
And yeah, I didn't
Oh,
really tell a lot of
jeez.
people, so a lot of people don't know this.
This is awful.
And I woke up, and the student, you know, the poor 18-year-old student.
Yeah, I'm
Can
probably
you
frightened.
imagine? Can you imagine this
Jeez.
freshman waking me up, and he's talking to my wife like, "What do I do?" And she's like,
Oh,
"Call
jeez.
campus police." And he's like, "Okay," you know, he's really scared. So
Oh,
I
my.
got sent. You know, I went to the ER, and I talked to my physician, and he said, "Look, you could either have you could either have the job at the community college, or you could do the city council thing. You can't do both anymore. Like this isn't funny
Jeez.
anymore. That's it."
Wow. Yeah.
So we decided, you
Mm.
know, we decided, okay, well, my name is already on the ballot.
Mm.
Mailers were gonna go out anyway. Got the lawn signs. We're just gonna let the train go down the tracks and see what happens. If I get reelected without campaigning, that's a miracle. But if I lose, that's okay. I had my cake and I ate it too. I
Yeah.
got to meet a lot of cool people. I got to go to the White House and work on some cool things there.
Oh, wow.
Tell you about that later if you want to get into
Yeah.
that.
That's awesome.
But that was it. We were like 2018. If we lose, yeah, I'm still alive.
Right.
And sure enough, I lost big time. Yeah, I got creamed. but
But not surprising because when
not
you shared,
surprising
you
because I
didn't
didn't campaign.
campaign, you know.
I didn't knock on doors. Like that was pretty much it. And
Mm.
I left office in December. And in January, February of 2019,
Mm.
we found out that we were pregnant with this little guy.
Oh, I heard his voice. Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So
So like the amount of
what?
stress that we were both under, you know, once all that stress melted away, we were able to finally start a family.
Yeah, actually, I've heard things like that before, where
You know?
people are able to be calm, and then they're able to have a family. And
Yeah.
and gosh, I bet you would never take it back. That little boy, right? You would
Oh,
never
absolutely
take
not.
that back.
So like to
Mm.
answer your question, I had a ton of things I
Mm.
wanted to do. I wanted to tackle some of the water quality issues in town. I wanted to tackle some of the noise pollution because we sit right under the LAX flight
Yes,
path.
yes, you do.
You know, I wanted to tackle some of the economic issues that we have in town. Like I wanted to try to get businesses. I needed
Right.
to get that sales tax revenue so that we could do some of the cool things that we can't do anymore. You
Wow.
know, so luckily we have a new generation of civic leaders that are really, you know, grabbing the bull by the horns and doing a lot of the important work.
Okay.
And I miss it a lot at times.
I bet.
When I see Christian growing up, you know, my son's name is also Christian, but I see him growing up,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's all good.
Yeah,
It's all good.
it all makes it worth it. That's so.
I
I
think
did. That's
that was God's way of saying like, hey man, take a step back
yeah,
and you know,
yeah,
you can't do that. You
yeah.
can't do both.
I've been there a little bit. I mean, that's why I left Elizabeth. I had a lot of responsibilities. I'm not sure if you remember, I was a lead teacher, and I just felt
Yeah.
like, you know what,
And
I
you're
need
also a
to
coach. I think
coach.
you're a softball coach for a while.
Right. I was doing all
Yeah.
these crazy things.
You were in charge of Bible club, if I remember
Yeah, the
correctly.
clubs and yeah. And
Yeah,
so
man.
you
You
know
did a
how
lot.
Yeah, so I think when I stepped just to be teaching for a while, that was such a nice thing to just kind of focus. And I think we need to do that sometimes. Just focus on whatever we're doing, and not to do two or three different things, because then we just do them all maybe not as well as we could if we just did
Yeah,
that one thing.
yeah.
So I do want to take us back to Elizabeth Learning Center, the school where we met. You were part of an information technology academy.
Mhm,
And how has that helped you later in life? Because at that school, there are two academies. I believe there's around 700 students when I was there. I left
mhm.
in about 10, 11 years ago. But when you were there, you were part of the Infotech, not the Health Academy. Did that help you, or later in life with your career? I know you've done other things in education besides your work in the city. Can you share that with me?
Yeah. So right out of the gate after graduation,
Mm.
I was able to volunteer slash intern with the school district as like a technology helper. I think that's what they called me at Ochoa Learning Center in town. And then when they were able to see what I was able to do, like do like minor repairs and networking and setting up printers and setting up a projector and things like that, they were saying, okay, we got to figure out a way to get this kid in our budget so that we could hire him on the spot, you know?
I think every school
And
has a person like you now, just so you know. I think you might have
yeah,
been one
maybe
of
I
the
was like
first.
the pilot
Yeah,
program
pioneer
for this whole
there.
thing, you
Seriously.
know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so definitely without those 4 years of tech classes, I wouldn't have been able to have that job that I had for a good 10 years
Wow.
after graduation.
Oh, that was a.
I also worked in like a private sector technology repair company for a bit, but I was able to, being able to navigate a desktop is so different from being able to navigate like one of these. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
a lot of students could navigate these. When you throw them in front of Windows 10, they're like, well, "What am I looking at?" You know.
Right.
So, I think, yeah, the Technology Academy definitely helped me, and I know that you and Mr. Mooney spoke about him
Mm.
before, but Mr. Davis was instrumental
Yes.
to a
Yeah.
lot of that.
And
He showed
we.
us how to do networking, and he showed us how to do a lot of things from scratch. I remember one of the assignments he had us do was like, okay, I want you to go on your computer. I need you to send me an email. And we're like, okay, no problem.
Right.
But he goes, okay, but you need to make your own cable to plug into the network. So there's the patch cable. Here are the RJ45s, the little
Yeah.
connectors.
Yeah.
Here are the tools. Go. So sure enough, that was the class. We got the cables, we stripped the wire, we were able to line them up, put the thing, crimp them, plug them in, and if the computer got connected to the network, that means it worked.
Oh wow.
If it didn't work, then we would have to start over and try again.
Oh wow.
And that was one of the things that,
He just.
especially when we were going from that paradigm shift of analog to digital,
I remember
he
that.
was trying to keep things very analog. Like sure, you could learn all the software, all the fancy stuff is great, but without the fundamentals, the fancy stuff's not going to work. You
And
know?
I think he was good at that, wasn't he? Like just to give you the fundamentals too, because it was all new, really. I mean, things have progressed since
Yeah,
then, of course, in technology, but you
yeah,
needed
like
to know
that.
those fundamentals. Yeah,
Like that.
so
Yeah.
much. So, and we actually dedicated our episode with Michael Mooney to Mr. Davis because of what he
Yeah.
meant to the kids there and what he even
Yeah.
meant to the school. So we had
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you had Mr. Paulino Fontes, where
I
this episode is being
did, man.
dedicated to. Yeah. And
Yeah, I had.
let's speak to that regarding your mentors. I mean, who were your mentors there? Or maybe you didn't. Maybe it was just, maybe outside of school you had some mentors. But can you share about that?
Yeah, man, definitely. I think when it comes to like an academy like the Tech Academy and
Yeah,
how small Elizabeth Learning Center is,
sure.
when you guys were really pioneering like the small learning environments,
Mm.
that was something that I think you would kind of get a mentor, a grade,
Yeah,
and I think that even kind of sprinkled over into the middle school because you're also my
mm.
middle school teacher,
I
eighth
was.
grade, eighth
I
grade history,
was. Yep.
and and so yeah, well, with respect to Mr. Fontes,
Yes.
he just had a lot of a lot of life experience that a lot of us didn't have because at the time, we're like 16, 17, I was 18 years old, You know, we didn't leave our little circle of Cudahy, or at least the southeast.
Mm,
You know, Mr. Fuentes being able, you know, he traveled the globe, and
mm.
he went to yeah, he was one of our teachers that would tell us about his college life, and what it was like growing up in California and the world, you know, in the, you know, 70s, 80s, and 90s. You know, it was really cool, man.
Yeah, he wrestled a
And
bear too. Don't forget that.
yeah. He was he climbed Everest. You know, just
He's
things like that.
athletic. Yeah, he's so physical too.
Yeah, definitely,
Oh wow.
definitely. I remember, I one of the last times I saw him was, I went back for like a career day or something, and this was like the one of the last few years that he was there. And I popped in. I go, "Hey, Mr. Fuentes," and he was like, Markovich, come here." So we were like catching up really
Oh wow.
quick, and he was like, "Markovich, remind me, what class were you again?"
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh God, I was class of 2004." You know, and are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah, go for it. Because I know Mr. Paulino Fontes. That's part of
Yeah.
kind of his
So
his beauty.
so so you know, so he said, "Oh, the class of 2004." Like, you know, Markovich, I've been teaching, you know, for decades, but the class of 2004 was the biggest batch of assholes I ever taught. You know, and we started
That
cracking up.
sounds like him.
And we started
Yeah.
cracking
You
up,
did have
and
an interesting
we're
class
like, you
though.
know, like, sorry, you know, like, sorry about that. And he
Right.
goes, "Yeah, that's okay. You too. Even the good kids were bad. Yeah, even the good kids were bad." So he was
You
just
and
kind
your
of busting
long
my chops.
hair. I remember that.
Yeah, he was busting my chops for a bit, but you know, he definitely left an impression,
Sure.
because you know, he could read, you know, the yellow pages and make it sound like Moby Dick. You
Yeah.
know, so you know, he I think a lot of, if you find a lot of the students from ELC that had him,
Sure.
they'll they'll be able to tell you, you know, 1,000 different stories about
Sure.
the guy.
Yeah, and I was fortunate. I mean, in a way, Mr. Mooney was sharing the same thing that we kind of, even though we were colleagues, in a way, we mentored each other as well. I know that sounds strange, but we learned from each other. I mean, I
Yeah.
learned from Paulino. I learned from Mike. You know, Mike is very intelligent, as you know. Mr. Mooney is so intelligent, and I learned so much
Yeah.
just by listening to him. I go, oh, let me listen to this guy because he has something to say. And same
Yeah.
with Paulino, just so, a wealth, city experience, and just life lessons, you know, and
Hmm.
just an intelligent man. And I always felt
Yeah.
like I could always learn at that school. There's so many people. Miss Kimberly Parker, as you know, just this great
Hmm.
artist, and her husband.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
we're pretty lucky to have a wealth of really wonderful people. So you definitely were exposed to a
Yeah.
lot of different personalities. Really, none of them were the same, right?
It was
From
definitely, yeah, and I think it was important. It was definitely something important to me growing up, because my family kind of leaned towards the left, you know, politically speaking.
sure,
And I have an uncle who is more conservative,
okay,
and he taught me growing up how it's important to listen to both sides of the argument,
sure,
and being able to be more of open-minded when it comes to ideas and the
hmm,
exchange of ideas.
yeah,
So that was one of the things that I carried into, adulthood, and especially on city council, being more of a statesman in that regard, and
right,
trying to figure out, okay, well, this person's coming at it from this perspective,
yeah,
and I think having different mentors that have the different mindsets is also important, because it also
sure,
challenges yourself and the way that you think.
yeah.
Like, one of the big mentors in my life, growing up and even to this day, is Martha Sanchez. Remember her?
Yes, I do
Class
remember
of
Martha.
2001, 2002,
I
something
want
like
to say
that.
2001. I might be wrong, but I'm
Yeah.
almost 100% sure it's 2001. Yeah.
Growing up, you know, she was. I went to, Luz Sanchez was in my class.
Oh yeah, her sister. Yeah.
Yeah, and after, you know, after graduation and social media and all that stuff, I was able to connect
Hmm.
with Martha, and she was, you know, she's doing really great things in her career. And I was like, well, how'd you get to that level, you know? And she was like, well, let's talk about it, you know. And she would, you know, give me some pointers, have me, you know, she helped me build up a resume, interviewing skills, being able to speak, you
Wow.
know, things like
Yeah.
that. So having mentors that from all walks of life, and being able to challenge your ideas, and help you grow, I think, is something that you could have even even
Sure.
post-education and even what we would consider professional development is sort of what a mentor does to the person that they're speaking with.
Well, with all that wealth of knowledge from Miss Sanchez and from your teachers, how about yourself? Because I know just by talking to you, you're not the same Christian. Obviously, when I saw you, when we worked together back in the early 2000s, even a little bit before that, you were growing. You were a young man, but now, as where you're at in your life right now, you've been, I'm sure, a mentor to people around you, especially when you're in city council. What piece of advice would you give somebody who's getting into the mentor race here, like learning about how to work with others? What one thing would you say, hey, you know what, this is something that's good when you're working with a younger person or somebody who's interested in your field, maybe someone in politics or maybe someone in education? What's one thing you could say to them that says, you know what, this is something to put in your cap and learn from?
I think one of the things that I would tell people is, it's okay to listen to advice, because a lot of because when people are trying to give you advice, it shows that they care. And I think when you're in a position where they know, where no one's giving you that feedback or that constructive criticism, that's a scary place to be, because it shows that the people around you have sort of given up on you. And I think that it's just important to listen, but also to prove that you really want it, like to have that drive and to take advantage of a lot of these opportunities that come around only like once every 5 years.
I like that. Have a drive, but always be listening. Yeah, that's great. I mean, because today there's so many opportunities for young people. They think that, oh no, the doors are closing, but no, look out, pay attention, but always be listening to those people around you, because it's, we could talk all the time, but if you're talking, you're not doing this, right? And as you know, all the people you've been surrounded with, people your age and people even older, you've learned to listen. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
There are 2 videos on YouTube that I watch at least once a year. One of them is the Steve Jobs commencement address at Stanford that he gave.
I haven't seen that. Okay.
So great. So great. I watch it once a year at least.
Okay.
And given the events that have happened in the past year, I learned something new every time. Another one is The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. Have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of either of them.
The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. Randy Pausch was a computer science professor from Carnegie Mellon University.
Okay.
And he achieved early internet stardom because he was a professor that was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And he gave that lecture shortly before he passed away.
Oh wow!
And it's called The Last Lecture, or How to Achieve Your Childhood Dreams and How to Help Others Achieve Their Childhood Dreams.
Oh wow! I will definitely look at that one.
You got to check it out. You got to check it out, and maybe even assign it as an assignment.
Right.
Watch this video. Tell me 3 of the ways to achieve your childhood dreams. And it's
good assignment.
It's about, that one's a little bit longer. That one's about an hour and a half ish.
Right.
Because it's a lecture. He gives a lecture about how to achieve your dreams. You come across brick walls in life, but those brick walls are there to test you to see how bad you want that thing that you're trying to accomplish. The brick walls are there to stop the people that don't want it enough.
Right.
Things like that. Or even are some brick walls are made out of flesh, especially like if you work in education, or like in administration. If you're trying to be a trailblazer or have an idea for something that you want to implement, it's really easy to come across an administrator that's like, nah, we don't want to do that.
Right.
So yeah, The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch.
And Randy Pausch. All right, we're going to put those up.
SDH, I think.
We have a Facebook group. So I want to make sure we put those two up just
I'll
so
send you the links. So I got to
please do
copy and
that
paste.
so we could put them onto the Pod and Deliver group. So thank you with that. You know, as you're sharing, I want to skew off for a moment because I remember you as somebody who loved music.
Yeah.
What's on your playlist right now? I'm just kind of curious. What are you listening to? What is Mr. Cristian Markovich listening to?
I kind of go like in and out of different phases.
Okay.
Like right now, I'm listening to a lot of like Chris Tomlin and Phil Wickham.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
Christian worship music artists. I also listen to a lot of Bob Dylan. I listen to a lot of Rage Against the Machine and Led Zeppelin and gosh, you know, the Beatles. You know, I listen to a lot
Oh,
of stuff.
you always like that music though. You seem to still a diehard there, huh?
Yeah, like Pearl Jam. But even like I'll listen to almost anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's as I remember, you just appreciated. I think your sister. Maybe you could do a shout out for your sister. I think she's in a band, correct? And
Yeah,
she's
my sister Crystal, she's in a band called the Honeytones.
okay.
So if you go on to Spotify or Apple Music, you type in the Honeytones, you should see their new single come out recently.
I went on just because I missed Michael Mooney shared about her and how good she is, and I had to go on and I listened to a couple of songs. I think on YouTube. I think she's on YouTube as well. I'm trying to remember where I saw her.
She's on YouTube. Yeah,
YouTube. And I was like, I remember your sister. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
She on stage and she has a great voice.
I know. It's really something.
And she's playing, I think, was it a guitar? I can't remember what she was playing.
She plays guitar and does vocals.
You must be so proud of her.
I remember, you know, she was always like really shy and really quiet, mousy, you know.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Here, I recorded this thing. Like, take a listen." I go, "Dude, that's you? Like, where's this girl been my whole life?" You know. So it's just kind of funny to see her have that stage presence and to you know be creative to like write a song and publish it and promote it. You know. So
that's
really
such great.
Really
thanks for sharing that. You know what? As we're closing down, there's a question I asked you in the beginning, and I kind of like to end with that. Or at least in that area, regarding what you're doing now. Are you? I believe you mentioned you were. Oh, your son's there.
Yeah, he hurt his finger. He's okay.
Oh no.
He got stuck. He's okay.
He's 18 months, right?
Yeah, 18 months.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a fun time.
Yeah.
So, and I remember. I mean, you know, it feels like yesterday. My boys were that age. And I blink,
and he's already, you know, he's running at top speed.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
And then pretty soon he'll be like, "Dad, let me borrow the car keys, please." Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, show them to us.
Hey,
oh my, that's your boy. That's a cute kid. Oh,
can't deny him, right?
Oh, that's your boy. Oh, he's beautiful. He's beautiful.
Say hi, Christian.
Say Christian. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for. Oh, that's awesome. He looks like he's okay. I don't think he's hurt that bad.
Nah, he got kind of wedged between like two chairs and he just got stuck.
Oh, wow.
How do I get out of here? He's okay.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Oh, it's wonderful being married and having children, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, man.
Isn't it great?
Not only you know, before I met my wife, I was never gonna be a father. Wow. Children out of the question. But then, you know, I met somebody that you know, we're going kind of looping back into like the whole mentor topic or like the umbrella idea. You know, she was the person that challenged me, made me think out of the box, made me grow, and she, you know, she helped me come to the realization like, you know, I want to be a father, you know. So having and she was actually, you know, to get really personal, you know, she was the person that got me into you know, going to church and reading the Bible. And before I was, you know, that was just a whole different, that was a whole other world that I would never check out, you know, like, nah, what am I going to do every Sunday?
Spiritual realm. Yeah. It's important.
So, you know, it was really important. And that also helped me get through and out of politics, you know, being able to lean on that and you know, humble yourself as well. Be a servant. Okay. You know, one of my favorite verses is Galatians 5:13, and that is, use your freedom in the service of others, not for yourself.
Mhm.
And I think that without getting too political, a
Yeah.
lot of folks, that's something that's missing,
Hmm.
especially in this day and age.
I agree.
And almost any, you could point at almost anything,
Yeah.
and you could see that that's something that we need more of.
We need to give ourselves away, and I think you're doing that, and you've done that with your community, uh, and even with your current job, because I think you're still in education, correct? And you're still
Yeah,
giving there.
yeah.
I
So
think you're.
I,
Mhm.
I I work for the community college district. I work at Compton College. I am what's called an instructional division coordinator.
Okay.
What that means is I help build and publish the schedule of classes for my guided pathway division, that for students to register for. So the new hotness in community colleges is something called guided pathway divisions.
Okay.
I work for the STEM guided pathway division. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, math, and I schedule all those classes in all their different forms and functions. But I also work for the health and public services guided pathway division, and that involves our nursing program, administration of justice, medical terminology, physical education, kinesiology. So I work with my dean and my department chairs, and they say, these are the classes we want to make available for summer of 2021. I say, no problem. So I get on the computer and I generate all those classes.
Oh wow.
Times, dates, locations, who's teaching them,
And you're
classroom
doing all this at home
capacity,
right now?
doing all that from home right now. Luckily, the
A lot of
district
work.
supplied us with technology to be able to do that from home,
Mm.
and we just roll with the punches,
Oh wow.
and that's what I've been doing. That's what I do. I also, a part of that also deals with faculty contracts. So I implement and create faculty contracts to make sure they get paid properly,
Wow.
and make sure that our dean of students has everything. Our dean for our guided pathway division has everything
Sure.
he needs, and we work in tandem with the VP of academic affairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
If
big.
you thought if
That's a
you
lot of
thought
work.
the school district was gnarly,
Yeah.
community colleges are also that bureaucratic, but also like the machinations behind the scenes. So a lot of students just go and they say, okay, I want to take,
Mhm.
basket weaving 101. Hours of work goes into the creation of basket weaving 101 every Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
It's a own world. I mean, my son's going
it's
to
its own
school right.
world. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he's at Fullerton College and Cal State Fullerton, and I say, wow, that's their own community right there because he's online, but he's involved with groups and I
Yeah.
guess clubs. I'm like, wow, they're meeting outside of school. That's great, and so
Yes.
it's a very challenging time, as you know, because I know you're working from home, and I'm sure we're all anxious to go back to on campus, right? But
Yeah.
I'm sure you learned quite a bit, even where you're at home.
Yeah.
So I guess a
Yeah.
biggest plus prize would be with your family, right? I mean, I think.
Huge, especially because Chris was born in September of 2019.
Oh wow. What
So
what day in September?
September 30th.
Okay. Yeah, I thought maybe I'm a
Okay.
September boy too.
Okay. What about you? September
I'll
what?
throw out the zero. I'm a 3.
Oh,
September 3rd.
my wife was born on the 5th.
Oh, there you
You
go.
guys are
Here
few days apart.
goes.
There it goes.
We're special
Okay.
people. We're very special.
Very special. That's right.
And being married to one I know is very special as well.
That's right. That's right.
That's great.
Yeah. I think it's also great that he's getting involved on campus.
Oh yeah.
I think when I went to Cal State Long Beach, President Maxon, I think his name was President Maxon of Cal State Long Beach, said,
Mm.
you are only getting 5% of the college experience if you just go to campus, go to class, and then leave. Get involved on campus, meet people, join a club, create a club, go to a sporting event on campus, study on campus,
Yeah.
because you are a student of
Mm.
this school. Like, this campus is yours. That was
Yeah.
great. That completely changed my trajectory as well, because
Sure.
you know, the people that, you know, because I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm a history student because I majored in history. So I'll go to the history club that's on campus. And sure enough, the people that I met on that day were some of the groomsmen at my wedding, you know, several
Wow.
years later.
It's all
So
these connections, huh?
you can't connect the dots going forward. You can only connect them, you know, going back.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we have to have you back again, man, because this is we go. I mean, I just want to talk to you more about your future because I was just kind of I'm studying you from afar. I'm not sure if you know this, Chris,
Sure. Yeah.
but
You're
I'm
actually
writing a
writing a
little
case
book.
study. You're doing a case study.
Look, case study is my
What happened to one of my
what happened to this
students?
kid? No, no, I'm just I'm a little giddy. You're my first former student to be on Pod and Deliver, but as I'm having you on, I'm thinking, oh, I got to have some more on because these are great. You have a wealth of information, great experiences, and I hope you consider coming back on again. But I just want to
Yeah.
thank you for.
Whenever you want, whenever I'm available,
Oh
I'll
wow!
definitely come back.
Well, I want to thank you
I'm gonna
for
get my
being.
wife in on the act too, because
Oh yes, I mean we
she would
didn't get to
actually
talk
love stuff
more.
like that.
I met your wife, and
If you
she is a
participate in
true.
this.
She's a true partner. You know,
Oh
it's great
yeah,
to have a spouse that.
she took one for the team for
Mm-hmm.
sure,
Oh yeah.
especially when I was in office.
Oh yeah, and I know she was a big supporter of you. I remember her knocking on doors when you were first, doing it and meeting
Yeah,
with people. And so yeah, you're blessed, man. You're a very
it's
rich
funny.
man.
It's funny because we started dating in the summer of of 2013,
Oh
and
wow.
then the vacancy happened in August.
Yeah,
And
it was
so,
right there, right?
so then I said,
Jeez.
so we were only dating for a few months. I go, hey, thinking about applying for the city council position. What do you think? And she, without batting an eye, she was like, go for it.
Oh wow.
Let's do it.
Right there,
What do
you knew
you
you
need?
had a partner, right?
And I
Right
said,
there.
okay, let's do it.
Jeez,
Awesome.
that's awesome. Amen. Well, thank you again, and thank you to your lovely son and wife for letting us have you for this time. And again, we will have you. And
I'll come back. Sure.
thanks for being on Pond and Liver. All right, Chris. Have a good night.
Alrighty. God bless you. Thanks a lot.